This is Jackie, and I'm here with Bobby, bassist of Emarosa. We are here outside of Baltimore Soundstage.
Yep.
You guys are done for the night. You've already performed. The hard stuff is over.
All packed up.
All packed up?
All packed up.
Very nice. So this is my eighth interview with Emarosa. The last time we spoke was May of last year.
Okay.
When the band played the Fillmore in Silver Spring. Back then, it was like I interviewed pretty much everybody. We all sat on a big couch and kind of kumbaya'd it. And Bradley very delicately alluded to a change in music.
Sounds about right.
And what do you think was like the biggest event, or was there a certain like moment where you're like, all right, it's time to evolve a bit?
I don't know if there was like any specific one event. Like definitely from the last album coming out, there was a pretty like clear shift that was already happening with some of those songs. And I think like from there we decided like the world we had been in seemed kind of stagnant. So like let's try and do something that we like to think that not many other people are really doing, at least in the way that we're trying to do it. Yeah.
And I think it's interesting because when Bradley tweeted about, you know, the post-hardcore Emarosa is over, I don't think, at least personally, that wasn't a surprise. But then again, I've been following the band sound for a while. So, like, I'm not quite sure why I get where people are, like, freaking out.
Because that's exactly how we feel, too. Like, and that's kind of why we did, like, the shift with the sound. Because we figured people that have been kind of paying attention to the band and coming along with it, it does make sense. Like it makes sense that we were going in this direction, like from like Helpless, from a shift from the song like Helpless to Giving Up. Like that's not a far jump.
No.
So it's like if you've been paying attention, we were going in that direction. We're on course.
I think that's what bothered me the most when I was like reading comments. People were like spazzing out, like, you obviously have not been listening for the past, like, 3 years or so because this was totally coming.
Yep.
From, like, reimagine, listen. Just listen, and I think it's there. So the new album, Peach Club, is set to come out early next year.
Yeah.
What do you think fans will, now that they've kind of gotten a glimpse of, or listen, what do you think they're going to be most surprised about with the album as a whole?
I feel like it's definitely not aggressive. There's a lot of fake drums on some of the stuff, and a lot more like electronic sounds, and kind of like more organic sounds, like having brass on Given Up. Other than some of the reimagined stuff, I think that's the first time there's been brass and woodwinds on any of the music. So it's a lot of new, like, for me, it's pretty important that we're doing a lot more shifts in harmonics, like using different chords. Like, I'm a big music theory guy, so it doesn't necessarily mean anything to a lot of other people, but it's a lot more complexity there rather than like playing like more notes. It's just more interesting chords. Yeah.
So how does Peach Club kind of bridge the gap from the old post-hardcore, if we're really going to call it that, still having trouble calling it that, to sort of like the dirtier pop?
There's definitely, so there's a handful of songs that sound like they'd be like right at home on 131. And then a handful of stuff that's definitely pretty far from it. So Given Up might have seemed jarring to some people. To others, it's definitely not. Some other tracks on their own will be definitely a complete departure from other stuff before. But then, like I said, there's a track or two that would have made sense on 131.
All right. This is just I don't ask many personal questions about like things that I directly need answers to, but how much do I have to bribe you to convince Bradley to do a cover of Man in the Mirror? Because I really think it needs to happen, and then I'll move on with life, I promise.
Probably nothing. I don't think it's a matter of having to bribe him. I think it's a matter of probably like the rest of us being good enough to be close to like the musicians that Michael Jackson played with.
We're gonna get a Twitter campaign going. I'm gonna make this happen in 2019 if it kills me.
Definitely not out of the realm of possibilities.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I feel like that's like if you're gonna slide in a cover, that would be like an on-the-nose cover.
For this tour, we were definitely like planning some covers, and there were definitely talks of potentially some Michael Jackson songs. I don't remember if Man in the Mirror was one of them, but there were definitely, it's not out of the realm of possibilities.
He's saying there's a chance. Yeah. That makes me so happy. You have no idea. So, Given Up, how did that song kind of come together?
So 2 years ago, well, I guess 2.5 years ago now, on Warped Tour, I started learning slap bass for the first time. And I want to say probably in like January of last year, 2017, I sent like some riffs to Matt, and like nothing came out of it. And then this spring in like February, we were all recording, and we were all writing demos in Matt's basement. And we had went through like a handful of things, had like some songs fully realized. Then on probably one of the last days, we were like coming up with demos. We were out of like all the ideas we had already had more fleshed out, and we were just like, well, does anyone have anything else? And I said, well, I have like this slap bass riff that I like have just like been messing around with forever, not thinking that anything would come of it for Emarosa, because none of the songs have had slap bass before. And so like I played it, and then we just like pretty much came up with a song in like 30, like right away. It was wild. Yeah, that song came together very fast.
So then how did it come about that you were going to choose it for your first single?
I don't really, I feel like it didn't seem like too much of a departure, like I said, compared to other stuff. So we felt it was kind of a bridge compared to some other things. And also it didn't, like I said, there's some other stuff that would make more sense on 131. We didn't want those as a first single, because then it would give the wrong impression. Like, oh yeah, it's going to be like this old sound, but it's not. Like, we wanted to say like, we're moving forward. If you want the old stuff, cool, it's still there. Like, enjoy that. But this is like how things are going to go.
Who came up with the treatment for the video?
So it was this guy, Eric Rojas. And yeah, as far as like having these dancers, one of Bradley's old voice students, which is now like a good friend of ours, is also a dancer. So we got like, it's a lot of the stuff coming together has been like friends and friends of friends, kind of like coming up with cool stuff. Yeah. Speaking
of friends, are there any collaborations that you can hint to that are on the album?
No vocal collaborations or anything. All of the brass from Given Up was played by Matt Appleton of Real Big Fish, which is a pretty cool cat.
That's pretty. I dig that kind of crossover, the Warped Tour crossover, if you will.
Nice. But no. Other than that, just like working with pretty much us and then a handful of producers. But yeah, no like special guests or something. We had like considered it, but nothing came out of it. We also like kind of wanted to show like this is what we can do when we're like free to do what we want.
So I heard your set tonight, obviously. How do you plan, especially on perhaps the next tour when the whole album's out, how do you plan to structure your set list to allow fans to hear the songs they want to hear and to hear songs for the new album so there's a flow that makes sense?
Yeah, so we actually just potentially started talking about this a few nights ago. We haven't ironed it out yet at all. Some of the songs will probably play, like some of the older songs will probably play just as they were written, like we did tonight. Like there wasn't really any change to them. We just began toying with the possibility of kind of like maybe rearranging some of them to use some of the sounds from the new album to have it make more sense sonically. Just like, since like I said, there's a lot more like synth sounds and whatnot.
I'm so sorry.
So that's a potential possibility. Haven't figured it out yet. We still got
some time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No,
we have to finish up this tour first,
exactly.
too.
Yeah.
All right. So the fox. Is the fox gone for good? Do you have a new spirit animal? What are we doing with the fox?
It's, as far as we know, like it's gone. Yeah. It kind of is what it is. We like, I don't think there's too many bands that have used like one kind of icon, well, I guess variations of a symbol for so many albums. Like a lot of bands, like Thursday has the dove, obviously, but it was just like kind of the one thing, and it comes back like here and there. But it was always like that one like specific logo, which kind of never really was how like the Fox was for the band. It was like different variations of that. But again, we're kind of like trying to shed the past and move towards new stuff. So we're trying new stuff and moving in new directions.
There we go. So 2019 is finally almost freaking here. I feel like this year has been very long, kind of rough.
Yeah.
Can you make some predictions for Emarosa for 2019?
Album's gonna go #1 to the Billboard Top Hot 100. Are gonna sell out stadiums all over the world. Gonna have our songs in like every movie that comes out, so every soundtrack. It's gonna be a big year.
I mean, that's what pop music's good for, is those movie soundtracks. Let's make that happen.
Fall Out Boy had like a song in some Pixar movie. I think was it Big Hero 6?
I think so.
Yeah.
And then we'll do interview number 9.
Yeah.
So get ready for it. Peach Club coming out at the beginning of 2019. Wait for it. This is Jackie. Thanks to Substream Magazine.